Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Huffer and Friends, a podcast designed to help you flourish at life and relationships. My name is Huffer. I am the host and the lead pastor of the Gathering Christian Church in Naples, Florida. And as always, you can follow us along on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube by liking any of our posts or comment on them, subscribe. We'd love to have you follow along on our journey as we try to help each other do this. And each episode, I invite friends of mine from around the world on the show to help share them with you because I think I have the best friends in the world. And they help me flourish in life and relationships, and I think they'll help you flourish in those areas too. Today we have Andy and Lindsey joining us again. Hey guys, good to have you back. We are talking this month on the topic of habits. Your life is a product of the relationships you surround yourself with, the habits you form, and the decisions you make. And so we're spending time talking about habits this episode and doing a Q&A session on that. Andy, Lindsey, how are you guys doing? What's going on today?
Well, first off, they can also follow you on your Instagram page.
Oh, yeah. I have an Instagram page. What's my handle? At Huffer and Friends, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Yes. You can follow along there. We share reels. There are upcoming episodes and from past episodes and stuff. So that's an easy way to follow along as well. I need to make sure I say that. Thank you, Lindsey.
You're what? Very welcome.
It's like you have a role to play in that part of it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What are some of your guys' bad habits? What is like, hey, I have a really bad habit. This is a terrible habit. I want to try and stop.
Diet Coke. No,
Diet Coke.
I don't think Diet Coke's that bad of a habit. Is it?
People argue that it's pretty bad for you.
Well, if I might die of like dementia or like, isn't it cause brain damage? It doesn't cause cancer, but maybe it does. I don't know. Everything causes cancer. So, I mean, the sun causes cancer.
Yeah. My dad was in town. I had a Diet Coke from McDonald's, and he's like, that's worse for you than regular soda. And I was like, I don't know, but it's 0 calories.
I would say I got some, I don't know. Yeah. Diet Coke would probably be my worst habit, but I have one a day for McDonald's specifically. And then I shouldn't say I have one a day. On a weekend, I'll have multiple, but like a weekday, try to have one a day.
I wasn't going to call you out, but
I was going to call you out.
Your second statement sounds more accurate.
Maybe some wine. Wine could be a bad habit. I can't just have a glass. I have to go into a second one. I'm trying to think of bad habits other than drinks. Let's see. Andy, you come up with your bad habits.
I'd say I'm trying to work on consistency and extremes. I'm pretty bad about being either on or off. I think I'm like 15 pounds heavier since March. And so we're in an off cycle right now.
Yep. I think bad for me is definitely just the food. It's like, I'm stressed. I'm going to grab something unhealthy today. Yeah.
Scrolling, bad habit.
Oh yeah. That's a good.
That's something I really like. Last summer, at the end of last August, I deleted Facebook and Instagram from my phone. I shouldn't say I deleted it because for my photography, I needed to keep it because I obviously have to post for photography. And so I moved them. They were on like my main screen on my phone. And so I moved them to the last page. There were so many times I picked up my phone and like where the app was on my phone, I picked it up to click on the app and then the app wasn't there. And I mean, the amount of times in a day that I would do that, it made it noticeable that, oh my gosh, I pick up and I just that's like the first thing I go to is just click on it. And I don't even know what I'm looking for. Like, I don't even know if I even acknowledge the post. I just open it up, just click on it. And yeah, I think that's a huge bad habit. So
there's something, research showed that like we touch our phones like over 1,000 times a day. Something crazy that just blew my mind. I said, if there's any other thing in your world that you touched, just take a coffee mug, and I touched it 1,000 times a day. I slept next to it. It's the first thing I touch when I wake up. It's the first thing I put down when I go to bed. I mean, the last thing I put down before that we would say that you're addicted to that thing.
I would totally agree.
It's become socially acceptable. That's just what everybody does.
Well, last night, I know, Sai, you know this, but I'll tell Andy. Last night, as we just said, I'm helping Sai with his social media account. And so now I get so mad at Sai anyway about this because I have his Instagram on my Instagram. And so, but I have my photography page, my personal page, I have Nick's Instagram, and I have then Sai's Instagram. So anytime there's a notification, it shows up on my phone. It will say like, Monica Huffer liked your photo. Okay, well, Monica Huffer is my friend, obviously. She's Nick's friend, obviously. And she's Sai's friend, obviously. So last night, it said Monica Huffer posted a story. I click on it, and then I like it. Well, then I realized I liked it from Sai's page. So, and I get, yeah, so sorry. I promised him, I'm like, I promise I don't read your messages. I promise I don't look at your notifications. All I'm doing is posting your social media. So it gets really hard. And then I get really irritated when he doesn't read his messages because he has an unread message. Because then in my Instagram account, it shows that I have an unread message. I'm like, nope, I don't have an unread message. But sure enough, you click on Sai's, he has an unread message. So, but I promised I wouldn't read anything. So.
They're from the same two people that send me memes and reels every day.
So everybody who's listening, when he doesn't read his messages, I'm really tempted just to go read them for him, but I don't. I promise. I promise I don't. So anyway.
So one of the things about habits is your brain does not function like in a cognitive state about everything that you do, every behavior that you have. It just can't. If you were thinking about breathing every day, I got to breathe in, I have to breathe out. You couldn't accomplish anything else. And so the way you are designed as a being, and your brain is designed, is that it creates habits. It creates these patterns that when you have a cue, then there's a routine that comes after that cue. And then that routine leads to a reward. And the reward reinforces the benefit of the routine, whatever it is. And so that's why addictions work. You get stressed, might be a cue. The routine is to drink, is to smoke, it's to take a pill or a shot or a sniff of something, just whatever it is, right? A hit. And then that reward you get is so strong from that chemical release in your brain that's what makes the habit happen. That's what makes the addiction happen. And you can do that from anything. You can do that dopamine chemical release can happen from your phone. It can happen from seeing a notification. It can happen from, being able to shut your brain off on Netflix. It can happen from sugar. It can happen from so many things. But what happens is those habits run your life. They make your life possible for you to keep it going, where you can think about other decisions that you need to make. And so the same is true. And this is what God designed you that way. So it's incredible that God designed you with all of this. Okay. But he also designed you to have habits that transform you into godliness. There's this verse, 1 Timothy 4:17 says, train yourself to be godly. And the Greek word for train yourself is gymnazo. Okay. It's where we get the word gymnasium or a gym. It's literally the idea of like the way you go into a weight room or a gym and you train by shooting free throws, or you train by running for a marathon, or you train for lifting weights. You also use habits to train yourself spiritually to become godly. And so that's what this month has been about, is like, okay, so if habits are a huge part of our life, what are the spiritual habits God has given us, and how do you engage them? How do you practice them to become godly? So that's kind of the framework for today. So what questions do you all have? You kind of had a heads up on what this was going to be about. When we talk about habits, spiritual habits, what questions do you come to mind for you that you'd like to talk about?
So I think start off maybe with a heavier one. We're all sinners. And so I think many times when we sin, we want to get further from God, right? We feel that guilt. So kind of broadly, what are your thoughts on that? And two, how do you not do that?
Yeah, how do you not sin?
No, obviously we're all sin, but you want to distance yourself. You feel guilty. You're like, Yeah,
absolutely. I think that those, non-negotiables you have as a family, you have as a person, and those like commitments you make, we are a very non-committal culture, right? Like try and plan a party and have people RSVP, and you'll realize that people don't commit because they don't want to be locked in case something better comes up. Right? Like that's really the reason. It's like, well, I don't want to say I'm going because I don't know who's going to be there. I don't know if maybe something better comes up.
Now I know why you never tell me you're coming or hanging out with me.
But when you make commitments to other people and to a spiritual community, that's why I think serving in your church is so important. Because when you make a commitment to be there, when it comes up and you don't want to be there, the commitments that you make to others, there's a healthy accountability and peer pressure that exists. You need to use it for yourself in a positive way. Like, we can talk about the negativities of peer pressure, yes, but there's also positive elements of having peers and a community around you that expects you to fulfill the commitments you've made. Okay, and if you don't, they're not going to come down on you like shame on you. There's a genuine concern of like, hey, what's going on? Everything okay? That for me is always a sign as a pastor of like, how are my people doing? Right? Sorry, I got my alarms going off. That's always a sign of like something might be going on in their life. Not I'm mad at them, but like they usually fulfill commitments. And then that helps me know how to care for people that I love and to check in on them. And it also helps other people who are struggling to not back away when things are bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think making commitments to a community really helps you not do
that. Okay. I like it.
Well, and you think about it too, it's like if you join a CrossFit, that's why CrossFit works so well. You pay money, you have community, there's an expectation of you, and so it's hard to stop. It's hard to not go.
Being held accountable.
Yeah, you're being held accountable.
Yeah.
Other spiritual habit questions? I
do. This is a little bit more. We haven't had a light question between the last podcast and this podcast, so I got to ask a light question. I'm sorry. That's not that funny, but what is one spiritual practice you always start with good intentions, but it's done by day 3?
It's done by day 3.
I'm going to do this. You're all in. And then maybe even by day 1, you did it for a day. And then by day 2, it's done.
Yeah. I am not good at consistently like having long journal entries. Like, I've tried a couple times. Like, I just want to write at the end of the day about my day. I don't make it past 2 days. That's not. I now if I'm like logging, like, hey, today I prayed about this, or I read this from this passage and here's a short thing like that I've done over the years consistently. I have several journals in my office from the past, but like, like almost like keeping a diary. Like, I've tried to do that and man, I do not do well.
What about non-spiritually? What is something that you said you're going to start this habit and then by the next day it's done, or by day 3 it's done? Snacking?
Yeah. I've had a lot of different diets I've tried that I've not fulfilled.
Man, you're just poking at some deep stuff for opening up with. I'm tired of all this deepness. I'm gonna go light.
You're going right for the jugular, Lindsey. Jeez. Yeah, diet. I think that's been one that I've struggled with the most.
We used to live in Washington State. We were very close to my mother-in-law, and her and I would always joke. You're like, oh man, I'm putting on some pounds. I'm gonna get healthy, but it's Friday, so I am gonna eat like just total crap all weekend. I'm gonna purge it out, and we start first thing on Monday. So the amount of times that I have just absolutely purged and done not a lot of great food or drinks in preparation to start to last 2 days, it's been straight comical.
What about you, Lindsey?
I'll answer this spiritually, and I'll answer. So I told myself, I've been working on the New Testament, but I said I'm going to read the New Testament. I'm trying to go through the whole New Testament. And I'm going to read like a chapter a day. I don't read a chapter a day. I read a couple verses a day because life gets in the way of my trying to read a whole. When I say life gets in the way, it's I have to focus. If I don't focus, then it's pointless to read. But personally, let's see, bad habits. I say I'm not gonna have a Diet Coke, or I'm gonna eat healthy or I'm going to work out. Working out, I think to me it's working out. Like, oh, we need to get back into walking every day again. And then I do it for a day. And then the next day comes, Nick's like, do you want to go walk? I'll be like, well, if I have photos to edit. If you don't want to walk, I'm totally okay not walking today. So, yeah.
That's hard.
Sorry, I had to ask a fun question.
I'm glad you did.
So I'd like to hear from you about getting back on track. So I'm sure other people have gone through this, but selfishly for myself, way better this year at reading the Bible than I've ever been. And so we'll do almost every day for 3 weeks, for 4 weeks. But even now, like, I don't think I've been in the Bible for 7 or 10 days, right? Life got busy. And then you judge yourself and you feel guilty. And then you're like, well, I'm already off. So how do I get back on? But I was doing great and it felt great. But it's like constantly falling back off after a really solid trend.
Yeah. I would say you have to give yourself grace. Like you just have to. You just have to be like, Roger Federer, great tennis player, right? 20 some odd majors, one of the big three. He's one of the best to ever play the game. He did a graduation ceremony speech. He said, I lost 48% of all my points I played. And you're like, what? He says, every point between me and another player, 48% of the time he lost. He won 80% of his matches. And you're like, that math doesn't compute. Well, it shows you how often you lose points in tennis. Right? And a point's like, you serve, and that point you lose. But he ends up winning the set 6-4, but he lost a lot of points to win the set 6-4. And he lost a lot of points to win 3 sets out of 5, or 4 sets out of 5, or 5, or 3 sets out of 5, or whatever. But he had, and the point was, when you mess up and you lose a point in tennis, you have to put that in the past so quickly, because there's the next point you got to win. And it's the whole, be a goldfish thing from Ted Lasso. It's like, you just got to have a short memory. And you got to say, okay, I've missed 7 days. I'm not going to miss today. And you just, and you got to have grace. If you beat yourself up about the mistakes you've made in the past, like you live in that, you're going to keep delaying what you can do in the future. Right. And so that's what the advice I would give. It's I think I've said this like a million times in the last month. When's the best time to plant a tree? 100 years ago. When's the second time to plant it? Best time to plant a tree? Today. It's like, sure, I wish I would have been better over the last however many weeks in my Bible. But it's in the past now. I can do it today. And so that would be my encouragement to someone to get in, is like, have a short memory, have grace for yourself, start over today. It's a new day. And that's what's beautiful, like, about grace and about God, is the Bible says his mercies are new every day. And so there is something in our makeup where we go to bed and we wake up the next day and it's a new day. And you get to start fresh today. And living in that is beautiful.
It's like the movie 50 First Dates.
Yeah.
All right. Is there a random place where you feel like you tend to talk to God the most? Like, for me, it's either in the shower or while I'm driving in the car.
Yeah. For me, was on my motorcycle. Like, when I'm in the car, a lot of times I'm listening to a podcast or I'm making phone calls. I'm using that time to get stuff done. But when I ride, I don't have any music playing. I'm not on the phone, and it ends up just me and God.
Your motorcycle is still for sale, right? You
It
guys,
is,
his
yes.
motorcycle is for sale if you're interested in a Harley Davidson. There's your advertising. Continue.
Thanks, Lindsey. Yeah, I'm selling the thing that gives me the beautiful time with the Lord. But there's nothing like it, man. It's precious to me. So that's a good question.
What is something you do or a habit you
But
do?
you didn't answer the question. You have to answer the question before you can answer or ask the next question. Yeah, you.
Me?
Oh. She wants you to answer the question too.
Yeah, you have to answer the question too.
What was the question you asked?
Oh my gosh. Pay attention to me.
Hey, look, I might have asked ChatGPT for new questions, and I was picking through them. I thought you guys had this.
Is there a random place you talk to God? Like I said, I was in the shower or the car for me. Sai said it was on his motorcycle. Get with the program, Andy. Get with the program.
I don't know. Nothing's coming to mind. Pretty boring person.
You are, so.
Yeah. The thought of the whole prayer walks and stuff is new to me. I'm like, oh, well, I'm new to faith. So I'm like, does it work that way? I thought I had to be like centrally located, like deep in focus. You mean I can pray while I'm driving down the road?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, is that the same prayers? Like, I don't know.
That's good. So, I had that revelation. I had a prayer mentor, and I was trying to carve out this special hour of prayer. And then I was walking my dog to go to the restroom, and I started praying on that walk. And I was like, is that okay? And she goes, yeah. And she said, actually, there's more in the Bible about praying as you go than there is about setting aside like there's as much about both of those things in the Bible. And so that was really freeing for me. For sure.
I will say I saw or read something, and it was like, how much are we silent? How can you ask from God and then not pause and listen? And so it's like a couple days where I started this, and I was silent in my prayer for like 30 seconds, maybe a minute, and I was like, cool, yeah, I did it. And so then talking with Sai about some things, he's like, hey, you got to incorporate silence in your prayer. So next time, just set a timer like 15 minutes. And I was like, that is very different than 30 seconds I've been patting myself on the back for.
A 15-minute prayer is not needed. We can all agree. No, the silent prayer. We were all there for the silent prayer. We do not need that 15-minute silence in prayer. And it just kept going and going and going. Okay. I will say.
Can't disagree with you more, Lindsay. To say that out loud.
And like, okay, just like we feel the Lord. Oh, and then it goes on for 15 more minutes. Like, let's be done. Okay, it's time to eat lunch. Let's be done with this prayer. Yes. So, I'm sorry. That was funny. Going back to prayer while driving, weirdly, that was the last podcast. So I just was we just drove to Missouri, 19-hour car ride. You're driving, your car's full of crap for 6 weeks, and we're driving through some random part of Mississippi. It was Nick had asked me to take over at 10 o'clock at night, 10:30, 10:45. I took over. I hadn't slept all day, but I was like, I'm going to power through. I get in and go get my pickles that I'm obsessed with these days. Get my pickles, get my Diet Coke, get a coffee. Coffee and pickles don't go together. I'm just telling you now. Coffee and pickles. We stopped at Buc-ee's. They have the best roasted almonds. So good. Sugar-coated almonds. Those were good with coffee. And so driving. And as I'm driving, actually, it was after this. So my low pressure light went on in my car, my tire pressure light. And, things that happens, like it goes on, you kind of just ignore it. You shrug your shoulders. It's like low pressure lights go on all the time. It actually went on way earlier in our trip and everything was fine. So I didn't think anything of it. Low pressure tire light comes on. Great. And in that moment, I was like, okay, I'm going to pray. So I start praying, I'm praying for safe travels, get me to my destination. It's the middle of the night. I'm powering through, that I'm staying awake, that I get there safely. And then about, in the middle of my prayer is when I lost control of my car. Then all of a sudden you hear bumps. I said, Nick, but Charlotte said, I said, SHIT. And so the next thing you know, anyway, long story short, my tire blew, but in my prayer, I was praying okay, just get me there safely, watch over our family. That situation, I'm sitting here laughing about it. That situation could have been a whole lot worse because I lost control of my car. I was passing a car. I was in the left lane. There was a car in the right lane. I was going 80 miles an hour passing this car when I lost control of my car. I was on a bridge. That situation could have been a whole lot worse. And I was able to like slow down and get from the left lane over to the right shoulder of the road before the semi behind me hit me.
Wow.
So it could have been a lot worse, but it's my prayer. That's what I tell myself.
That's
Sorry.
cool.
Lindsey, thank you so much for sharing that.
You be quiet, Andy.
It reminds me as somebody new to faith, still learning how to pray. And if you're in like prayer circles or church, you hear some really awesome prayers. And you're like, that sounds nothing like my prayer, which is very short. And it's just like, help Cy, please help Lindsey. And you're like, how do I elaborate? But then also, I think
so nice
Matthew.
you pray for me.
Thank you. Then also, Matthew says not to like drone on like fools in prayer either. And so it's like, well, how do I be short and be not so short, but also go on and on and on and on and on and on?
Yeah. I love that you brought up that Matthew verse. I think Matthew specifically says, do not keep babbling on like pagans who stay on the corner and show themselves off in their prayer, but go into the room, your closet, close the door, pray to the Father who is unseen, and your Father who sees what you're doing in secret will reward you. I think we don't know how to pray, and we're intimidated by prayer because we hear all of these prayer. The place we hear prayers is at church or in prayer circles where people tend to have flowery language, and they grew up in church and they prayed a lot and they have these long prayers, and you're like, well, I can't do that, so I don't do anything. Right? Like that's the like, well, I guess I can't do that, so I'm not going to pray at all. And that's, man, I hate that. If that's you, and you struggle with that, I would encourage you to just in our podcast, I walked through 12 stages of prayer. Okay, so go back and listen to that episode. And it's going to be on spiritual habits. I'll talk about what you do for each station and how I pray each station. But if you pray through those stations and you just say 2 minutes, 1 minute, a few things about each station, you'll begin learning and training yourself how to praise. How do you confess? How do you pray for others? And you don't have to be flowery. You don't have to, be long. And then I would encourage you, so use those 12 stations that I teach you. The other thing I would say to do is, this is just like learning a new language. Like when you first learn a new language, you say very short phrases. ¿Cómo estás? Buenos días. That's all I got, right? You don't have a full, long conversation. Well, you're learning to talk with God, and prayer is kind of like learning a different language. In that, if it's short and sweet and to the point, that's okay. Think about when your kids, if you had kids, when they were 1 and they were starting to learn to talk. You're their dad, you're their mom, you're their parent. When they said, water, please, or hold Jerry always said, hold you, when she wanted me to hold her. Hold you, okay? She's not having long conversations with me. But her talking to me made my day. Her saying those simple phrases and words made my day. When you, in your early faith, are saying short little things to God, just picture him looking at you like you did your little baby, your little toddler. It makes his day. It does not mean anything less to him that you have a beautiful, flowery 5-minute prayer or a 5-second prayer with 3 words.
Not 15 minutes, though.
We'll get you there, Lindsey.
So the follow-on, something I'm just putting together is I think sometimes we get away and we're reluctant because of the expectation. Like, I'm just not going to pray because I don't have a 5-minute. I don't know where to read in the Bible, so I'm just not. I can't do it perfect, so why start?
Yeah, totally. Well, what do we say about fitness? I mean, fitness is such an easy example of like healthy living. And they're like, just start somewhere. You're not going to do it perfect. Just start walking every day. Start doing jumping jacks. Start doing push-ups at your house. Like, start with something small and just be consistent. Consistency is the key. Like, it's like start small. And that's why, we talk about my buddy Jeff Bennett. he says, dream big, start small, execute like crazy. It's like, you know where you want to be. You want to have this flourishing relationship with Jesus, but start small. Try and do one little thing every day. Say, I'm going to pray every day for 2 minutes, and read my Bible for 2 minutes. It's a 5 minutes with God. One chapter, one prayer. Start small and then just execute like crazy. Do it at the same time. There's a cue. What's the cue? What's the routine? What's the reward? Like literally have a timer go off for you to do your devotion, your 5 minutes at the same time every day, do the routine, and then eat some chocolate afterwards. Like, I'm serious. Like, do the cue, routine, reward. And that you will begin to not be able to stop yourself. You will do it at the same time every day, and you will have, and then next thing you know, it will be 15 minutes. And you'll think that was way too short, Lindsey.
Nick and I actually, you have us had your marriage series, and something we really never used to do together was pray, but now that's something that we've started a habit. We pray together every single night before we go to bed. And
cool.
randomly, obviously, like on our drive up here, I was like, oh, like we first got in the car, let's pray for safe travels. Really, that didn't work that first time. But yeah, every night before we go to bed, though, we pray together.
That's awesome. I love that.
So it's a habit that we recently started.
I think that's super cool, and kudos to you guys. Really guilty of like reading a book and not implementing anything. So I think that's just really cool that you heard it and then tried it and then stuck to it.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Yeah.
I also thought those facts were shocking. Most of the time on Sunday I show up, and I really enjoyed last week's sermon, but I couldn't tell you what it was about. But, the statistics you have about 1 in 2 marriages ending, but couples that pray together is 1 in 1,200. I mean, that's undeniable, unbelievably shocking statistic.
Yeah. When I heard it, it blew my mind. And it's like, we've been praying together more regularly than we ever have before since then, because it's like, if there's one thing you can do that impacts you, that has that drastic of a curve of success and exponential impact, man, I'm going to start doing that.
I mean, I think that's like one of my favorite times a day these days that we do that. And I've been open with this about Monica. I've never know if I told you though, but like, I don't like praying out loud. I don't want I'm really nervous about like getting in front of a group of people and being like, okay, let me pray. Like, I don't have a fear of public speaking. So I think that kind of goes for part of that. But I feel like that first time I did that with Nick, I kind of felt awkward because I don't like to pray out loud with somebody and be the one talking. But now I feel like I told Monica that I do, like when I come back from my trip and her and I start getting together, that that's what I want to work on, is being able to pray out loud. So, but I think that was like the hardest thing for me when I started doing it was Nick. I was out of my comfort zone. And I mean, this is my own husband, but I was out of my comfort zone just because it's like, it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Vulnerable. Thank you. Yes. It's very vulnerable when you have that prayer. So, but yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It's been awesome. A great habit.
I love that. Well, here's the last thing I'll say about habits today. Habits drastically impact your life. Don't try to do too many at once. Work on one, and to develop a deep habit, it's longer than 21 days. They would say 67 days is probably what you need to do to develop.
Maybe 72.
Maybe 73. Yes, but that's why 75 Hard exists. That they're borrowing off that same kind of research, is just 75 days in a row of habits. And so I would say, choose one habit this year that's a spiritual habit and work on it. And if you miss a couple days, start over. Give yourself grace. Keep working on it. Keep trying to train yourself to be godly, because that's the goal. Your habits don't earn your faith. They don't earn favor with God. He doesn't love you any more because you practice habit. He doesn't love you any less because you fail at habits. All habits do is they train you to become different, to be more like Jesus. They help you overcome your bad tendencies, our sinful nature. And that's the gift of them. That's why Jesus says, come follow me. He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. We love about the truth and the life, but we don't talk about the way. the way is Jesus is showing you, here's the way to live. Let me teach you these habits and these rhythms to get into that gives you a better life now. And so just to end on that, Andy, Lindsey, thank you again for always your time, your thoughts, your perspectives on that. But choose a habit this year. Work on it. Give yourself grace and try to hit 67, 70 days of just making that new habit a part of your life. As always, if you like what's happening here, if you want to follow along, you can like or comment, subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. Also, you can follow us on our Instagram channel at Huffer and Friends. We have a new episode dropping every Thursday. Remember that you are made for more, so don't settle for anything less. Have a great day.